Ooh, how was that?
It was amazing. It was my first white Christmas, and it was
Yeah.
so cool. It was cool to be able to listen to Christmas songs that say like "Let it snow," and it's actually snowing. So
Snowy.
that
I know, right? You don't want it to say let it snow and it's like, oh my God, it's so hot.
yeah. Well, that was my. I grew up in Los Angeles, so that was my life growing up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been to Beverly. I've when I've been traveling, I've been to Beverly Hills, Anaheim, and California, I believe.
Yeah. So Beverly
Um,
Hills and Anaheim are in California. So yeah, that's around.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it was pretty good because I went there in February a few years back. So that's usually like when snow is at its heaviest here, and it was good to see palm trees, people in shorts, and bright sun. And there's a lot of people in California.
A lot. Just in Los Angeles alone, it's like 11 million.
Wow, that's a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
a
a
lot
lot.
of people. So I know today you're talking to us about sexual empowerment. So actually, let me ask my first question in regards to that. By when it comes to your perception or your definition of sexual empowerment, what does that mean?
That's a great question. So I myself have thought about this a lot too, because I mean, yes, you can call me intimacy coach, sex coach, but I prefer sexual empowerment. Um, because I feel like in order for us to be able to fully own our sexuality, we need to feel empowered to do so. So, how do we get to a place of empowerment? I've broken it down to two different concepts, right? The first one is knowledge. You become a sexually empowered person when you have knowledge of sexual anatomy, knowledge of self, what you like and what you don't like, knowledge of your partners, what they like, what they don't like, right? So you're accumulating knowledge by understanding yourself and through the self-exploration journey, right? And then the second piece is courage. So once you have the knowledge, then you need the courage to act upon the things that you know, right? So for example, if I know I like X, Y, and Z, I know my partner likes X, Y, and Z. How do I muster up the courage to go out and do those things and feel good about them and enjoy the pleasure that my body is experiencing?
Does that the courage piece, that's something that I spoke to a few other people about that, and that seems to be like something that's difficult for some people because they still associate like shame
Mhm.
and guilt with intimacy. How can someone then obtain the courage to have those types of conversations where maybe there's like a fear of rejection, there's a fear of shame, there's a fear of guilt?
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm going to say first and foremost, like if you have the ability to, definitely hire a coach, hire a therapist, because if you need that extra guidance, having a coach or a therapist there to hold your hand throughout that entire process can be very, very, very supportive, right? But ultimately, I would say that feeling that you feel, that shame, that guilt, that fear, right? In order to be able to get through it, to get to a place of confidence and empowerment, you need to have the courage. You can't have courage if you're not afraid, right? So, what that means is that those icky feelings, we get to learn how to embrace them. Because in order to become confident, you need to do the uncomfortable thing a million times until it becomes comfortable. And once it becomes comfortable, you gain confidence. And once you gain confidence, you become an empowered person. Never let the fear, never let the shame, never let the guilt hold you back. Okay, it's there. Hi fear, hi guilt, hi shame. How you doing? Let me hold your hand and we're going to go through this together. And eventually they'll go away. But they can't go away until you just accept that they're going to be there for a little bit.
Yeah, that was like the conversation piece for me was tough because I looked at it sometimes, this is like way back in the day, as is this like a sign of arrogance? Just because if I go to like my partner and say, I like this, I like that, this is what I prefer, this is what maybe I don't prefer. My feeling at that time was okay, if I say these things, what if it offends her? What if
Mm.
it makes her feel inadequate? Right? It's not like I'm saying that I want a girl with big tits and big ass. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not saying that, right? What I'm saying is that, hey, is it okay if we try this? Is it okay to try that? Because I've been in a position where someone has said, okay, Train, is it okay if we try this? And even though I was hesitant in the beginning, we had the conversation. I was like, okay, you know what? This is something you're going to enjoy, and I get to be a part of that.
Mhm.
Right. And that feels good. Is that like a missing piece where sometimes it could come across as selfish in a way, but maybe it should be looked at, you get to participate in something your partner is going to enjoy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2 points I want to make to that. First of all, you are not responsible for your partner's pleasure. I am not responsible for my partner's pleasure. We are all responsible for our own pleasure. So when I say that is I'm responsible to advocate for myself. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what feels good. This is what I find curious, right? The reason why I say that is because a lot of us have sex and we're so worried about the other person. Do they like it? Do they not like it? What's going on in their heads, right? That we forget about ourselves and then we don't enjoy sex altogether. So my only responsibility in sex is my pleasure. And when it comes to partnership, our added responsibility is to listen attentively, to respect boundaries, right? And to do what is requested if we feel comfortable to do so to the best of our ability. Okay, so that's one piece. The second part of that is understanding that intimacy is a co-creation of an experience, right? It's the same thing like if I were to tell you, like, what do you want to do today? And you say, "Ooh, I would really like to go to the movies." And I look at you and I say, "Ooh, movies? They sound okay. Can we maybe go have dinner before the movies?" Yeah, dinner before the movie sounds good. And then maybe after the movie, we can go for a walk. I don't really feel like going for a walk after the movie. Okay, I understand. So why don't we just do dinner and a movie and then we can like go home? Yeah, that sounds good. So there's a discussion, right? That co-creation. And that piece is really important. So expressing your needs and your wants and your, all of that is not selfish. In fact, if two people are coming together and doing that together, now you're co-creating an experience that both of you will enjoy. So that negotiation piece, that conversation, communication, all of that is so important.
The way you've put it sounds so much better than anyone I've ever heard when it comes to like my friends, right? Because they're like, I really want to do this. And they'll like list it, right? But you mentioned like the way you talked about it's co-creation. It's this. I'm responsible for what I like. You're responsible for what you like. We come together and then co-create. Where, and this is probably where so many people are going to say this like toxic, like men talk, right? Where it's like, I want to do it this way, meaning that I'm giving the instructions, and sometimes the other person is viewed as, even though men and women, like there's some people that are givers and receivers and you alternate. Some people's like, I'm going to be a giver 100% of the time. So you have to receive everything that I say in every which way. And I did a test with some of my male acquaintances and I asked them, how do you enjoy having sex without getting too graphic, right? They mentioned it. I was like, if it was reverse and you were a woman and you were receiving that type of activity, would you like it? Like, oh no, I would hate that. Maybe you should then reconsider your what you're doing in the bedroom, because maybe she's going along with it just to go along with it, and maybe she may feel a certain type of way if you're not communicating that. Do you see a lack of communication impacting negatively, very negatively, the whole scenario of the intimacy and the sexual experience?
Yeah, 100%. And, I just want to I want to make something very clear. I don't like to generalize people by gender, right? Like, yeah, I get it. Men are socialized a certain way, women are socialized a certain way, like that exists. But I wouldn't generalize a person based on their gender or their race or their or like their socioeconomic status, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's how can I create a safe dynamic with the people I engage with sexually where they feel open enough to say, I'm not into that. I want to do this. Can we talk about it a little bit more? Right? Now, this is where we have also the responsibility to communicate our needs, but also hold space, understand our partners and respect their boundaries, right? And that conversation can look a little bit like, I really like to do this. How do you feel about it? If your partner says, I don't know, okay, how can I support you in figuring that out? Now, it's important to understand that piece because you're right. There are a lot of people that just go with what their partner says because they themselves don't know themselves sexually, right? So if one person knows what they like more than the other, then I would invite that other person that knows more of what they enjoy to really invite their partner to explore themselves a little bit more, right? To ask them, like, how can I support you in figuring out if this is something, right? And even saying, if you don't feel comfortable, let me know, and I'm okay with not doing this again, right? Or is there something I can do to make this experience more comfortable for you? So I'll give you an example because there's a lot of nuances, right, in sexual activity. So I had a client, and her boyfriend, they've been together for like 9 years. And so, monogamous, 9 years, they only have sex with each other. And one of the biggest, I guess, wedges between them was that he really likes doggy style or like behind positions, right? And she's like, I don't like them. So I said, okay, why don't you like them? Just out of curiosity. And she goes, I feel like they're really degrading. I feel like that position is degrading and dehumanizing. And I said, okay, is there any way that you can make that position feel more loving, right? And she took a moment and she paused and said, I think if he was maybe extra affectionate, maybe if he said really sweet things in my ear, maybe if he grabbed my waist and kissed my neck, I was like, okay. I was like, how would that feel? She's like, I think I would be interested in doing it like that. I said, okay. What if you did it in front of a mirror so he can actually see you as you're doing that? She's like, oh, yeah, that would be a great idea. So they tried it and they had an amazing time, right? Again, the co-creation, right? He wanted this specific thing. We talked about what could support her in enjoying it. They both ended up enjoying it, right? So yes, that communication is so important. And yeah, a lot of couples lack that for many, many, many reasons. But communication is my number two sex tip. Very, very important.
I've heard some of my female friends tell me that they view doggy style as degrading for the various reasons. Like some mentioned that they had a bad experience. Some mentioned the media that they've seen and some of the videos that they've watched. Like we're talking about like porn and things like that. It has what's the word I'm looking for? It has tainted their view of it, right? But here is a good point. Just because you may have observed something or you may feel a certain way, you can still own it and make it yours,
Mhm.
right? Such as the mirror, such as being more affectionate. What do you think are some of the obstacles that couples face then when it comes to the communication piece and or the co-creation of the moment?
Oh God, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a long list. A lot of possible obstacles. Okay, so let's just start naming them. Childhood, right? Like if you grew up in a home where you were not taught how to express your feelings, right? You might be a people pleaser. You might have a hard time telling someone, hey, don't do this, don't do that. I like this, I don't like that, right? Not feeling safe in the dynamic, right? So if you're in a relationship where maybe, things have happened in the partnership that have created kind of an emotionally unsafe space to really express yourself fully, right? But let's just say those two pieces are like not present. Let's say someone had a great childhood, no trauma, and let's just say someone has, a couple has an amazing relationship, they get along well and all the things, and they're still having that. It really comes down to your own sexual exploration, right? And then again, the knowledge and the courage, then developing that courage to be able to express yourself. A lot of people also get scared with like hurting their partner's feelings, right? They're like, oh, I don't want to say this, I don't want to hurt their feelings. But if you kind of take yourself out of it and you're not saying, you suck at this, do this better, instead you're saying, hey, again, let's create this experience where we can both enjoy it. What do you like? What do I like? Right? Let's figure this out. Now, what you're doing is you're becoming a team, creating something that you really enjoy versus finger blaming or telling your partner they're not good enough, right? It's how you say it that really matters. And which brings me to another point. A lot of people just don't have the communication skills. How do you learn to talk about these things, right? And that again, communication is a skill, right? It's a skill that takes practice, a lot of fucking practice. And you will make many mistakes as you practice it, but the more you practice it, the better you become at it, right? So those are just some obstacles.
So when it comes to having these types of conversations, like I think for the most part, people can communicate with their friends at work, but intimacy and sex, this is a whole different way to communicate. Like if I were to compare the way I communicate with my partner about these things and the way I communicate at work, two different worlds, right?
Mhm.
You're very professional, like, yeah, you know what? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And all this other stuff, right? You may say that in a bedroom, depending on if you're into like role plays and things like that. But how does someone then take the steps necessary to say, Jocelyn, I want to learn to communicate what I want, but it's not necessarily only about hurting my partner's feelings. It's what if I say what I like and they tell me no?
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. So the first piece is a lot of people don't have, again, the language, right? So something that I do with my clients, I created a workbook called Knowing Me, Knowing You that literally takes somebody from like through an entire sexual experience, from time of day all the way to aftercare, right? So communication, foreplay, initiation of intimacy, motion in the ocean. And this really gives them the tools to be able to say, I like this, I don't like this, I enjoy this, I don't enjoy that, right? So that is one tool that I give my clients to kind of help them understand how to say the things that are hard to say, right? Now, whenever you say the things that are hard to say and your partner says no,